Hi everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for episode 126 of Album of the Day, in which today I'm going to be reviewing another album from Yep Rock Records, which is an independent label from North Carolina that I've been an honorary completist of since mid-2015, and they've been sending me every record that they've released in the past couple of years since then. So I'm here to review the new album from a singer-songwriter who is definitely a very versatile kind of artist when it comes to all the different styles that he plays with. You know, very, very eclectic artist who mixes together elements of folk, alternative country, Americana, indie rock, blues, and soul, as well, who's been getting quite a bit of acclaim, in the past, couple of years from music critics. I'm talking about the singer-songwriter known as Jonah Tolchin, who I first discovered back in 2014 when Yep Rock sent me a copy of their of his sophomore album and his first album for Yep Rock Records called Clover Lane, which has gotten some acclaim and all that, and I did think it was a great record, because of the great lyrics and I loved how diverse the sound of the album was musically, and also an all-star cast of musicians on that album, including Steve Berlin of Los Lobos, as well as Chris Scruggs and Anderson East, as well as John McCauley, I don't know how to pronounce his name, of Deer Tick. But I'm here to review his third studio album that was released on August 5th this year, and his second album for Yep Rock Records. And the album is called 1,000 Mile Night. Clover Lane, I would definitely put on my list of some of my favorite records of 2014. It's pretty high on there. This new album of his, certainly does have, sort of the similar sort of styles that he sort of played with on Clover Lane. But, this time, I would say it's definitely a little quieter, more stripped back, a mostly acoustic collection of songs. So it's certainly a more mature album than Clover Lane, but still, I do think it's a really solid album. So I'll tell you what I like about it in a little bit. But anyway, this is the CD copy that I have of the record. Nothing too interesting here with the packaging. That I do really like that album cover, though. And produced by Marvin and Ziony, who did produce his last album, Clover Lane, which is pretty much the whole reason why I know about him as being a great producer. And of course, Jonah himself produced it too. Yeah, co-produced it, yeah. And then there's some of the lyrics there. There are the liner notes there. And this was recorded at the legendary Fame Recording Studios, Muscle Shoals, Alabama. That's pretty cool. So many great music has been recorded there, and it's such a great studio from what I've heard. Those are the lyrics there. So no booklet, but at least there's lyrics in there. And then there's the disc there, and there's 10 tracks on the album, 35 minutes long, so it's like kind of a short record, but it sort of shows that, he sort of has it down to a science a little bit. So yeah, that's the CD copy that I have of 1,000 Mile Night, which is the new album from Jonah Tolchin. So, this record certainly, what I like about it is how it's certainly, as I said, more stripped down than his last album, but still, it's but yet he's not playing it safe, or and yet it's not a tame acoustic record. It still has he still has those songwriting skills, and that versatility in terms of his styles of music, are still pretty much intact and still very evident here. He's definitely come out with his most mature album yet right here. Yeah, it's here. But, not that he doesn't have, like, faster tracks on here that are great here as well. I mean, look at the title track, Thousand Mile Night. Love kind of the driving sort of, twangy rock instrumentation on the song with that really lovely, jagged lap steel guitar, as well as some eerie electric mandolin, some blinky electric piano on there too. And sort of lyrics that I think, and lyrics I definitely do think sort of relate to the cover art a little bit, because like he brings up, that, he's going from Mobile to Michigan, and he brings up imagery of like an old radio that plays but nobody listens, and and just like on the cover art, he mentions a Mississippi preacher smoking in the backseat. Tail light missing, like a gold-tooth bar fight. Motel waitress looks good from the left side. So it's like, it's like this song, like, so it's like, his sort of ode to driving, and he makes it sound very poetic and dark, but still also definitely very sort of, makes it sound very kind of, optimistic as well. And he sort of reflects on his lifestyle a little bit on this track. So yeah, it's definitely a, great track on here. Also. But then also there's some really beautiful ballads on this record too, like the song "Completely," one of my favorite songs on this album. Really, just very cathartic song, with some really gorgeous, I love like the very gorgeous piano chords on the song, that I think color the track really nicely. And also as well as the acoustic guitar and the banjo, I think play along with it very nicely, and then also has some really nice and some really nice fiddle playing on the song too, and like lyrically, it's definitely one of the most sort of hopeful and cathartic songs in the whole record, but still definitely has some depth to it that I really like a lot. Depth to it. Really like a lot. As well as some nice background vocals. Like I read that Sam Midion played fiddle and banjo on the song and also sang the harmonies on here, which I thought sounded really nice on there. And lyrically, it's definitely a song sort of, basically, it's like a song that, song about, the protagonist seems to be encouraging, this, like, woman in his life to, like, you've kind of been, hiding something from me, all this time, but this time you're gonna look me in the eye, and this time you're gonna give it all you got, and when you come back to your senses, just do it completely. And I love that, and I love sort of that emotional crack that Jonah has in his vocal performance toward the end of the song. I think really just the emotion that's in there is just awesome in there. So yeah, definitely one of the best songs on the record, I think. and then also the song "Paint My Love," which isn't my favorite track on here. It is one of my least favorite tracks on the album, but still, it definitely is really beautiful and, has definitely some of the most depressing lyrics on the entire record, especially in that refrain of, "I will paint my love all the colors of the sky. It's a white, white wine that I cry." But still, it's definitely not depressing in a painfully sappy way. It's actually very compelling as well, and has a really nice bass groove on the song too, which helps bring some optimism to the kind of somber guitars that the instrumental is driven by. Um, by and then also, and then another one of my favorite songs in the record, "Song About Home," which is kind of a song basically sort of longing to, which sees Jonah sort of longing to sort of go back to that place in his life that was so important to him that he's sort of been away from for too long. I.e. lyrics about him like waking up shaking in the middle of the night, and talking about how he's just growing up so fast, and just going down slow, and he's going through this sort of emotional phase in his life, and he's like, yeah, and he like wants to go back home to sort of wants to sort of go back to that special place in his life that he somehow has a hard time really getting to. Pretty much. But then it gets really hopeful at the end. He eventually does find his way home and all that, even though it's kind of a semi sort of optimistic ending to the track, because he does bring up that chorus of "Home, I've been looking for you, feeling so blue, just passing through." And also this song also has and also musically, I think the song is actually very distinctive. The pair with the kind of folky guitars and bass, instead of like full-on drums, we actually have congas as percussion on here, which is pretty inventive, using Latin percussion to give the sort of, mostly folky instrumental kind of a distinctive Latin touch a little bit that I really like a lot, and it has a nice amount of reverb on there to make them seem very organic on there. So I think it's pretty nice little percussion treatment right there that I wouldn't have expected. But then of course we do have the very soulful and very uplifting "Unless You Got Faith," which which again is one of the more optimistic songs on here lyrically, and I just love how and I love how I just love how this song is just it's got religious. It does have religious references in the lyrics, but I like how it doesn't come off as preachy or obnoxious. It actually feels like it's actually a very relatable and definitely very smart message about how you can't love in this world unless you got faith. Just that mantra is definitely one that I think definitely has some agreeability to it that I really like a lot. And also I do love, there's some really killer B3 organ chords on the track that really do give it that sort of southern soul vibe that I like a lot. I do really like some of that kind of music, to be honest. Honest because of the very uplifting, smart messages and and what not and stuff like that, and also a really great guitar solo on the song too. This is one song where Jonah really shows off his skills as a lead guitar player, pretty much. Pretty much. much. But then following that, we eventually do go back and definitely into again a darker track lyrically called "Where the Hell Are All My Friends," which is definitely probably one of the darkest songs Jonah has written to date. I think there are references in there about like death and stuff like that. It could be about death, but it mostly has to do with loneliness. Jonah sort of reflects on how his life seems to be crumbling, especially because he can't find any of those people that he used to know that have passed or probably gone away or something like that. So it's definitely a very sort of depressing sort of track lyrically. Track, especially as he brings up lines like, "There ain't no water to give your daughter. Count the moon while the angels surround." And then but following this, we do get the bluesy. The last two tracks on here are definitely where the blues sort of influence comes in, and that is very evident on the second to last song on the record, which is "Working Man Blues" number 22, which it's a great track. It has some great energy to it, and on here he sort of talks about how he was a man who was working so hard to save himself and earn his wealth, and pretty much and mentioning how he had to work for the devil to buy his ticket home pretty much. So yeah, it sort of sums up sort of the lyrical themes going around on this album, and also some really killer guitar, and also some really killer kind of fiery guitar playing on the song, especially during that solo, which I do think is pretty awesome. Awesome on there, and it closes with the song. And the album closes with the song. It's a cover of the Skip James blues song titled "Hard Time Killing Floor Blues," and it really does open the album definitely on a very positive note. One of the quieter songs on the record. I highly recommend you listen to this one with headphones, and probably the case for this entire record, to really get the message or really get the emotion in there. And this song definitely, my favorite part of the song is Jonah's vocal performance. It's very powerful, very emotional. That kind of bluesy tone is something that I haven't really seen in blues music since some of those legends, like maybe Junior Kimbrough or something like that. Even though I haven't really heard much Junior Kimbrough, but I have heard that amazing EP the Black Keys have done, titled "Chulahoma," that has great Junior Kimbrough covers on here, and that is I felt Dan Auerbach's vocals on that EP definitely had that emotion and that bluesiness that I like to hear in there. Same goes here for this closing track on this new Jonah Tolchin record. And, sort of the lyrics about how it's just been some hard times and stuff like that, and having a final message before you leave, pretty much, and and needing to have a final message before you leave, pretty much. It definitely really does tie into the context of this album really snugly, I think, so. Yeah, the vocals and especially the vocals only make them that much more effective. You bring some bluesy vocals on this track along with the Working Man Blues track too. So yeah, overall I do think it is a great record. With record on here with another pretty good cast of musicians on here. I mentioned Sam and Binion on Completely, and that song also features Joachim Cooder on drums, and also he does bring up some of the musicians from his last record on here too, people like Marvin at Ziony, I already highlighted him, as well as Lucas Hamrin, but also people like Jamie McFarlane and Michael Joe Bosco that weren't on his last record that I still thought brought some really nice bass and drum work to the album too. Along with Lucas, who provided some really nice guitar playing on here. Here, still, there are a few moments on here that I do think kind of pale in comparison to others in the track listing here, like the opening track on this album, "Beauty and the Ugliest of Days," which is a good song, and I do really like the drum performance on there provided by Bob Marley drummer Santa Davis, as well as the lyrics on there too, but it just kind of felt a little too short for me. It has an abrupt ending, and also I don't mind sort of, the bridge being in like the middle of the song, but it does leave it kind of feeling a bit disjointed, and also while I do like the lyrics on this track, in terms of like the context of this record, they don't really seem to fit as well as some of the other songs on here. And also there's the song "I Wonder," which is also pretty good lyrically and musically as well, but doesn't really have as strong of a subject matter, and doesn't really and I mentioned how it doesn't really fit in with the context of the story of the album, as well as some of the other songs do. Other songs do as well. And also it is one that also feels too short and kind of ends abruptly, fades abruptly to be exact, kind of fades out at the wrong time, and it could have been longer. And also I feel that the song is also kind of dying for that really awesome electric guitar line to maybe make the song feel less sort of, bare bones and vacant. But really, outside of those, outside of the few, issues that I do have with this album, I do think overall it is some really good material here. I feel Jonah once again came through with another great collection of songs here, and proves that he's still very relevant, as very talented and versatile, and also very intelligent when it comes to his intelligent and honest, and very powerful when it comes to his lyrical content and his vocal abilities too. So he's like kind of a just when you thought all the good styles of folk and blues were dying, well then you obviously haven't heard what this guy has to offer, and I really appreciate him for all that. So I'm gonna go with a light 8 out of 10 on this new Jonah Tolchin record. That was a Mild Night. So that's my review of this album that I do recommend, from Yep Rock, of course. So shout out to you guys, Yep Rock. Thank you for the support, and I'll see you for episode 127.